Good evening. Good evening, kings and queens of the land. Good evening. Good evening, the royals. Good evening. Good evening to all the liberated zones in Africa. Let me acknowledge Burkina Faso, which is led by President Ibrahim Traore. Acknowledge Niger, led by President Abdurrahman Tian. Let me acknowledge Mali, led by President Assimi Goita, the man who started it all, taking the motherland using the gun, the weapon that the colonizer understands very well. Salute to President Zuma and the MK party for partially liberating KZN. Partially liberating KZN. Salute. Good evening to everybody. Thank you for joining. My name is Mngoni Mkonto. This is the Royal Opinion. Uh, Today I want to talk about what the president does while South Africans are directed to waste time following the commission. The commission's work, um, for anything to happen after the work of the commission, it all depends on the president. So I want to talk about what Ramaphosa does when he's off camera, while South Africans are actually focusing on um, the commission. The snakes are just going in between, creating big deals, committing the country to serious issues. Let me give a little bit of a background of what I want to talk about. In 1800, in 1887, around there in Haiti, the first black country to defeat Europeans. The Haitians have defeated the French colonialism. The French colonialism has been in Haiti for 300 years, and then they were defeated by black people in a bloody war, in a very bloody war, which saw a lot of people, a lot of black people getting eliminated and created a lot of suffering for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, the Haitians, people from Haiti, won the war against the French colonialism. After winning the war against the French colonialism, then America and France sat down and had a conversation, um, realizing that if we fight among ourselves, because they were still fighting among themselves about Africa and about dividing the whole world to themselves. So realizing that if we continue to fight among ourselves as white people, then the other nations are going to defeat us. The Americans and the French came together, and the French acknowledged defeat in the war. But after acknowledging defeat, they said the Haiti people should pay the French for the loss of income from the slaves. The French people, French people who were owning slaves. The French people who were owning slaves in Haiti had to be compensated by the government that came in after they have defeated the French. And when they have made, it took Haiti 100 and I think it's 107 years to pay up the debt which the Europeans and the Americans have created out of the thin air. So after doing that, then they realize that they can actually create slavery. They can actually continue with slavery through debt. That's when they realize that you can actually eliminate the painful process of administration of slaves and the negative energy that you have to use when you have to whip the slaves. And sometimes the slaves are fighting back and all of those things. When they create the debt, then they don't have to be. If they create an unreasonable debt for you, then they don't have to be here. They still make the same money that they were making when they were here, but eliminating a lot of administration issues, making more profits from the slaves. That's when they started to create unreasonable loans, created the institutions that would lend money to Africans in order to create slavery, poverty, and all the things that they associate with African countries. Ramaphosa set up a commission. Today he was in parliament. They asked him questions about Maumela. Any answer to the public of South Africa is sufficient for him because he was not put in leadership by South Africans. He was put in leadership by the European Union, represent the European Union. So whatever he says to South African is sufficient. I mean, the explanation that is given there, it's actually for children. The explanation is given, it's actually for a 9-year-old child. That's the explanation is given about his knowledge about Morgan Maumel. So this is the issue. The European Union, President Zuma before had a deal. In actual fact, President Zuma wanted to implement a nuclear deal in South Africa, which all white people rose and said, nuclear is very dangerous. Zuma has to be stopped because President Zuma wanted to create an energy independence, which the European wants to use to create unreasonable debt so that the children of our children are going to owe the Europeans for their electricity, even though the Europeans are not contributing anything to their electricity. But the black people in South Africa will owe the Europeans for their electricity. While all the resources comes from their own land, while all of the resources that we need to create a nuclear plant comes from South Africa, the South African Syrians are going to owe Europeans for the energy that is going to be generated from nuclear energy. President Zuma had a deal with Russia. It was build and operate. Russia, South Africa was not going to pay a single cent to the Russians. They were going to build a plant and operate it for a particular number of years. After operating it for those number of years, and then hand it over to after they've made their profit, hand it over back the operation to South Africa. So the European Union yesterday or a day before, which was the 12th of October 2025, they have given another commitment of 12 billion rand to South Africa, 12 billion euros, not rand, to South Africa in to add to the commitment that they have made before, 5 billion and 8 billion, 8.7 billion before. The purpose is to create debt and create slaves because this money will be collected from South Africans. South Africans are not aware that while we're focusing on following the commission, Cyril Ramaphosa is making deals. Who's going to do the nuclear plants? The loans comes with a lot of conditions, barbaric conditions, European conditions um, that destroys our culture because their conditions are not related to their conditions are not related to money, are related to destroying what they deem as a threat about black people. So in total, the European Union have committed 25 billion euros, which amount to 500 billion rand, which has been committed to, um, which has been committed to give to South Africa in order to create energy which will be sold, nuclear energy which will be sold to South Africans, meaning South Africans are going to be owing the Europeans for their usage. Energy independence is very important. The companies who are going to be used in the construction of all this nuclear energy and all these renewable energy plants, they all belongs to the Europeans. All the money that is going to be spent is going to be spent on European companies, except for the BEE brothers, Ramaphosa and his brothers or his close friends. Those are the people who are going to get billions as well. But the rest, an average South African is going to be the one who is going to pay for all what Ramaphosa is doing at the moment. So while we are wasting time and watching, focusing on Madlanga Commission, they're doing exactly what they want to do with us, creating slaves out of South Africans and creating slaves out of black people. There's a lot of link that link Ramaphosa to a lot of wrongdoing, but it's never spoken. There's no talking about his crimes, that there's no talking about the mainstream media. When it was President Zuma, we were shown even where his chickens are sleeping, we were shown where his goats are sleeping, his cows are sleeping. We even show where his toilets, everybody knows his showers, everything about President Zuma's home. Every corner we've been shown on camera. Nobody knows Pala Pala. The journalists are quite about it. No investigative journalist to investigate Pala Pala. President Zuma, it's a gift from our ancestors to black people to rescue us from this disaster that black people are facing. The future of black children is doomed under this circumstance. If the European Unions and the Americans win the war, then it's doomed for black people. Generations to come are going to suffer and suffer and suffer they will. Click the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching.